If you've been wondering whether Etsy is still the place to start your online business or not, you're not alone. I hear people questioning all the time, wondering if Etsy has just changed too much from what it used to be, or if it's gotten too saturated to even be successful as a new seller. These are absolutely legitimate questions, and as someone who's been an Etsy seller for over 10 years, made it to the top 1% of shops, and generated multiple six figures on the platform, I have a few thoughts on the subject. Today, we're gonna have a real and honest conversation about the reality of selling on Etsy, and I'm gonna give my 2 cents on if I think it's worth it looking into the future. I'm also gonna share an alternative tool that you might not have considered and might actually be a better fit depending on your goals. So let's jump right in. First, we're gonna talk about the benefits of selling on Etsy this year. First of all, there's no denying that Etsy has an amazing, huge built-in audience of loyal shoppers, which means consistent, regular traffic from people that are going to Etsy every single time they wanna make a purchase. They may not know the specific Etsy shop that they're gonna purchase from, but they love the experience of shopping on Etsy as a whole. And that's why Etsy has over 93 million active shoppers. So right off the top, that's an undeniable benefit of selling on Etsy is as a new seller, especially, you get to tap into that built-in traffic and you're not competing with the whole internet. You're only competing with the shops on Etsy itself. You've got more of a chance to be discovered quickly because there are so many shoppers that the Etsy algorithm is pushing to shops every single second. Now, if you're like, Kate, I already know I want to sell on Etsy. I just need to know how to do it to actually make consistent sales, then I've got you covered. I've got an entire 45-minute long deep dive masterclass all about how to be successful on Etsy. It's my 5-pillar Etsy success formula, and it's totally free for you to watch. It's the class that I wish I had had when I first started selling on Etsy, to skip past all the fluff and really understand the strategies and tactics that you can implement in your shop today to get a head start in making substantial income. So I've got that class linked in the description box below. Feel free to hop over and watch that when you're done here watching this video, or you can get to it also by going to etsymasterclass.com. Okay, second benefit and pro of selling on Etsy this year is that it is actually a very trusted and established platforms when you're considering it compared to competitors. Etsy was established in 2005, and since then it's only grown in popularity, and like I mentioned before, has built year over year a massive audience of loyal shoppers. People go to Etsy, number one, because it's become known for unique and sometimes customizable products that you can't just find anywhere else, but also because they learn to trust the platform. Etsy takes care of its buyers really well, and for the most part, Etsy sellers take it very seriously as well, abiding by Etsy's policies, so shoppers feel safe and confident and inspired to shop on Etsy because they know they're going to be taken care of, and because Etsy sellers offer products that you can't get on other platforms like Amazon or eBay. Thirdly, Etsy is digital product friendly, which can't be said for all of the different marketplace platforms out there. For instance, on Amazon, you can't sell certain types of digital products and just offer it as an instant download. For instance, if you have a PDF guide or a checklist or even a set of templates, you wouldn't be able to sell digital products like that on Amazon. Etsy is built for both physical and digital product sellers. And so those of us that are wanting to sell those types of digital products don't feel any kind of friction when we're going to upload a listing. Everything is super user intuitive. There's a place for the seller to upload the digital product file so it can be instantly delivered. And there's a lot you can do if you are a digital product seller. Not only that, Etsy has again become sort of the go-to for these types of products when consumers are looking to purchase. Etsy is one of the most trusted and first platforms they're going to think of. And fourthly here, in my opinion, Etsy has a pretty low barrier to entry. So especially for new sellers or beginners who may be on a little bit of a tight budget, it's not going to cost you a monthly amount recurring every month that you're going to have to pay out as you're getting your business going. The only cost up front is going to be your one-time setup fee, which at the time of this filming is going to be anywhere from $15 to $29. And then you've got a 20-cent fee each time you add a new listing. Those are the only things you'll have to pay up front, and then everything else comes as you make sales. So you're never going to pay, for instance, a transaction fee or a payment processing fee unless you've made a sale. So you can easily build that amount into the price that you're charging to cover your fees. It's a pretty straightforward and simple setup process, much more simple than if you were going to try to set up something like a Shopify store. Okay, so that just about covers the main pros, in my opinion, of selling on Etsy this year, but there are a few negatives as well, which I want to cover. One of the biggest negatives to selling on Etsy, in my opinion, is that it's not very customizable. So when you look at different Etsy shops, they all kind of have the same format and look very similar. There are some areas that you can customize as the seller, like adding your own branded banner image, shop icon, adding your profile picture, and of course your listing images. But in general, talking about the layout and the feel and aesthetic of the shop, all Etsy shops are going to look pretty similar. So you are limited in terms of making your storefront look the way you want it to. Now, if this is something that's really important to you, there are other options out there. If you decide Etsy's just not the platform for me, there are some great alternative store builders, and one that we personally personally love and recommend is Everbee Store. The initial setup process for Everbee Store is super easy. You can have AI build it for you, or if you already have an Etsy shop, you can simply import your existing listings so you won't have to rebuild everything manually. And if you're on another platform like Shopify, Wix, or WordPress, you can migrate over too. Once you're inside, building out and customizing your shop is simple. You control everything from the colors to the font styles and wording to the sizing of elements, banners, and photos, and you can even add sections like a contact form, slideshow, featured product collection, email sign up, review section. There's so many different things you can do with the store builder. And adding products is just as easy. You'll have all the fields you need from the title to the description, photos, policies, all the important pieces. You can start completely from scratch or use Everbee's AI Brain. With AI Brain, you can create a product by just giving it a simple prompt and it'll generate everything for your listing from the category to SEO optimized title and tags, description, and even give you a suggested price point. You can also use the AI Brain to edit and improve your products or update your imported Etsy listings in seconds. These time-saving tools are what really set Everbee Store apart. And best of all, you can feel totally confident trying it out because it's backed by Everbee's strong reputation. They're already well known and loved as a research tool, and now you can build your store on the same trusted foundation. So if you think Everbee Store could be a great fit for you, I've got a link in the description box below that'll let you try it out for just $1. If you try it out, I'd love to hear what you think of it. And I want to give a big thank you to Everbee for sponsoring this portion of today's video. All right, the next negative and something to consider when deciding if you want to sell on Etsy or a different platform is that with Etsy, you are selling on a marketplace platform, so you have shared control over your shop. This means that if you violate a policy or you go against any of Etsy's rules, they can put a strike against your shop and even suspend or close your shop. So in this way, you don't actually have full control over your shop. Now, in my experience, most of the time when shops get shut down, there is a valid reason and they have actually violated one of Etsy's policies. So it's not something to be super concerned about. If you familiarize yourself with the seller handbook and what's allowed and what's not allowed on Etsy and do your best to be in compliance with that. And the third negative to selling on Etsy this year is that over time, certain niches have gotten more saturated and the market has become more competitive on Etsy in certain niches. If you are wanting to sell in one of these more saturated niches, you might find it a little bit harder to stand out because there are a lot of sellers and a lot of competition. So you're going to have to go that extra step to make sure that your listing in your shop is very optimized for ranking high and conversion. So things like making sure every listing has quality photos or mockups, making sure that your title and your tag section and your description on your listing are optimized with highly searched keyword phrases so the algorithm knows what your listing is all about and can show it high in the search to the right shoppers. Things like this will help you optimize your listing to give it the best chance to break through. And it's not impossible to break through market saturation, but there are some niches that I would say are way more saturated now than they were even a few years ago. Again, this is not for all niches, it's just certain ones that have become very popular. So my advice for this is if you are wanting to sell in one of these niches, get more specific with your research and what types of products you're wanting to sell and sub-niche. So for instance, you might be wanting to sell wall art. Wall art is a huge niche on Etsy and can be really saturated if that's as specific as you get. But if you were to do some research on a specific target audience that might actually like a certain type or niche of wall art, then you can sub-niche into that specific focus. For instance, you could make wall art for teachers in a really modern, sleek, minimalist style. Just getting specific and niching down like that will automatically cut out a ton of the competition. This makes it a lot easier to break through even in a saturated market. So when it comes down to it, my thoughts on if Etsy is worth it or not this year come down to where you're at in your selling journey. If you are a newer seller who's just starting out, maybe you don't have much of your own audience built up yet, I think Etsy can still be an awesome launch pad for you due to that built-in traffic and audience of millions of shoppers who are already there on the platform looking for what you have to offer. But if you're someone who does already have a bit of an audience built up that you could send wherever you want, whether it be Etsy or a different storefront, and especially if your goal is to build a long-term brand, not just a side hustle, then you might want something more customizable. And in that case, I'd recommend considering how you could expand beyond Etsy with a storefront built on another platform like Everbee Store. So that's my 2 cents. Make sure to go to etsymasterclass.com or just click the link in the description box below to hop over and watch my free 45-minute 5P Etsy Success Masterclass. It's going to be a huge help to you if you decide to sell on Etsy so you can know how to build and grow your profitable Etsy shop from day one. Talk soon, friend.